All right. Greetings, all. Appreciate those that are joining us today during the lunch hour. My name is Bart Hendricks. I'm the Senior Director of Charitable Gift Planning here at the Boise State University Foundation. And I also want to acknowledge my colleague, our advancement coordinator for the gift planning team. And her name is Cammie Otter, which helps me in a lot of ways when it comes to what we do here in the foundation. This is estate planning 101, for lack of a better term. Obviously, we're in a higher education environment, so the 101 stands for easy, and we're trying to be as basic as we can when it comes to just some of the fundamentals of putting a proper plan in place. And so we're super excited to be on here. And obviously, I want to note out that I am a Bronco, so I'm very happy to be a part of the university in more ways than just being a proud graduate. So once again, welcome, and we'll kind of get started here. First and foremost, like I said, we work for the Boise State University Foundation. It's the fundraising arm for the university. The things we manage and ask for support to the university, to support the program, support the students, support the university as a whole. We are a nonprofit, and we are just here to, like I said, strengthen everything about what it is to be a Bronco and the university as a whole. So that's who we are, but I will provide like who we are not. I know we're talking about estate planning here, but we are not professionals in the estate planning world. We're not attorneys, we're not CPAs, we're not financial advisors, though I used to be in that role many years ago. So if you have questions, everybody's situation is a little bit different when it comes to their family and their tax brackets and their assets. And if you have those kind of questions, we obviously ask that you consult with your advisors in that capacity. So a little disclaimer there, if there's any lawyers online, they can just say, hey, you said these things, and you're not licensed to do so. So this is purely information, purely educational. And like I said, we're happy to have you here. So that's who we are not. So what is an estate plan? It's a roadmap, for lack of a better term. And I like to say a roadmap for the what if. Obviously life happens, things happen, and we don't live forever. And I also want to point out that sometimes we can have some things happen to us where we become incapacitated and we can't make decisions on our own. And an estate plan and the proper documentation can help in those what if situations. So briefly, it's a collection of documents and strategies and outlining the things that you have and what you want to do in the case of what ifs and where that stuff is going and how it's going to get there. There's 4 basic documents that we'll highlight here, and I listed them in this slide. We call them the big 4. Everybody's obviously a little bit different when it comes to these situations, but these are the basics. These are the main documents when it comes to putting an estate plan together. I will point out that obviously, if you have questions, I should point out, we'll take those questions near at the end, and we encourage those. If you have some, hopefully I have some good answers for you, the right answers. And like I said, I go back to my disclaimer that if it comes to tax or legal things, I'm going to have to defer to that. But yeah, if you do have questions, you can type them in and we'll get to those. So there's what a estate plan is. It's a roadmap. And now, who needs one? Well, if you can answer yes to any of these questions, you need some kind of estate plan. You need to have some things in order, in place to carry out the things that you want carried out. So it doesn't matter if you're single or married. If you have children, especially if you have, there's people with blended families. That can be a really big reason why you want to put some things down. If you own real estate, have a house, you own a business, you have other assets. if you have health concerns, maybe there's some health concerns in the family, and those you want to be able to properly manage. And then, and obviously, if you have financial accounts, actual tangible property, you got artwork, you got jewelry, you got a nice vintage vehicle, those things that you want to make sure are going to go somewhere where you want them to go. So that the short answer is everyone needs an estate plan. And it's like I said, it's for those what if moments. And so why does it matter? Well, there's a lot of factors here, but, just to control and peace of mind, to knowing that you have things down on paper legally, and it ensures that your intentions and wishes are followed. If you have loved ones, you can get them taken care of. We are a nonprofit, like I said, so estate plans are a great way to support the causes that you care about. It helps avoid conflict. I'm in this space. We do receive gifts from estates, and there's a list of beneficiaries on these things. And sometimes we have to wait until we receive those gifts because one of the beneficiaries has an issue with what is going on and was not maybe informed about the intentions of the said estate. So avoiding conflict is one of the big things, and unfortunately you can write all the things you want, but I have seen incidences where conflict's just still there. But this helps mitigate some of those things. And then time, right? Avoiding the unnecessary costs. You talk about court costs if somebody is not happy about the plan in place. Delays, having to go to court, and then taxes. If you are using the various different assets, have different tax implications, and if you're giving them to something or someone, it might have more tax implications than another asset. And bottom line, the note, it's going somewhere. So whether you have a plan in place or not, the state, if you don't, the state, the government, they have a plan for you. And it's a good thing they do, because a lot of people will pass away or become incapacitated without any kind of plans in place. But so the state does have a plan in place for you. If you're okay with that, kudos. But they might not do the things that you want. They have a list of how it goes and what it should do. And if you're okay with that, then by all means, you don't want to put a plan in place. But for me, I want to make sure that my things are going where they're supposed to go and everything's kind of in the right place. So it definitely does matter in that capacity. Well, where and how to begin? The hardest part is getting started. Admittedly, I've been there, and it just and in some ways you're almost never finished. But the hardest part is just getting started. It's just putting the information down on paper, really. And these are some highlights here. And identify your personal and financial information, your goals and priorities. Choose trusted key people that will help carry out these goals and these priorities, and then eventually you go and create these essential documents, like I said, called the Big Four. That image there on the right, that is the front cover of our estate guide. It's a estate planning guide, and you can find that on our website. And we'll go to it later. I'll show you how you can download that. And we also have hard copies as well. If you want to download one, request, and you want to request a hard copy, because I know it's a little bit easier to just pencil things in. I know from my situation, I'd much rather write it down and type it in. But yeah, we do have hard copies of this guide, and it helps you identify those key things that are listed there. It kind of puts things in order, so you at least have a plan in place for when that time comes that you want to visit with an attorney or start creating your documents. So, like I said, the hard part is just taking the first step and putting things down. All right, the big four. Everybody. These, like I said, these are the core legal documents that are used to create an estate plan, the will and/or living trust. The will, for sure. Sometimes people will want a trust. We'll go into some of the differences there of will or living trust. Some want both, and it kind of depends on everybody's your situation when it comes to if you want or need both. The power of attorney for finances. Who's going to pay the bills and make sure file the taxes on your behalf. Not only if when you pass away, but if you become incapacitated and not able to do that. And that's what the attorney for finances does. And the power of attorney for healthcare, for that incidence, when you can make those decisions when it comes to your healthcare, and if you're not able to do that. And then the advanced directive and living will is also one of the key things here. Some of these documents you can find easily. They're free. I know in the state of Idaho, you can go to the Idaho Health and Welfare, and you can get these documents, at least the power of attorney for healthcare and advanced living will directive. Those things are available for free. The will and living trust, there's definitely some online tools. We have an online tool, and I will be going into that a little bit later just to show you how you can create a will online. And as well as the power of attorney for finances on that. So those are the big four. Just remember those, and we'll go into them here a little bit individually. So the will and or living trust. The main, I guess, the core of the core, if you will. It's a legal document. It lays out your desires for your assets and how it'll be distributed after your passing. There's provisions for if you have children, gifts to charity, even all support, even your pets. If you live in Idaho, especially in Boise, we love our dogs. So this is a way to do that. I will make note that some assets are distributed outside of the will, and like for instance, like a bank account, you can write a transfer on death, a TOD, and those things are outside of it. So if whoever's on that transfer of death outside the will, that's who's getting it, even if the will says it's somebody else. That account supersedes, and we might be a few questions about that because there is a few accounts that live outside of the will, if you will. So will, living trust. I know we get questions like, okay, well, what's the difference, right? They both outline, appoint, and distribute. Yes, they do. But there is some key differences. I think the main part is, from a broad perspective, a will states what happens after you die. A trust manages and manages what happens while you're actually still living, and it can be funded and created. Things can be taken out, things can be put in. It can be managed. It can be actively managed and changed. Not to say a will can't, but the trust is a little bit more flexible when it comes to that. Another big key difference is probate. When you pass away, it goes through the courts. It goes through probate. A will, a legal document, is also a public document. If you want to keep things private, you don't want any Joe Schmo out there looking at what your intentions are, then maybe a trust is what you want. It avoids probate. It keeps things private. A trust is also a legal document, and it's a private document. it acts almost as its own individual. It's like a box. I've heard that referenced a few times from some attorneys that I've spoken with. That imagine it's like a box, and you put things in those boxes, and you close it up, and it's private. So as far as control during your life, a will comes into effect after your death. The trust, you can manage and remove assets at any time. You have more control during your lifetime. The incapacitation, it doesn't help if you're incapacitated. Versus a trust, you could be the trustee. You can name somebody else to take over the trust in case of your incapacitation to handle those affairs. So that's a key thing. And then because of the management and the things associated with the trust, and there's a cost. And depending on somebody's situations, the assets they have, maybe they own businesses, maybe they have a blended family. It can be, there's more upfront costs when it comes to creating a trust, and there's some work, there's an admin work. It's one thing to create this trust, this box, but if it's just sitting there empty, it's not kind of pointless. You got to actually transfer assets into the trust to make it worth your while. So there's a little more complexity when it comes to the trust versus a will, which is pretty simple and pretty cheap to create. In fact, we'll go over our website where you can actually create one on our website. And that doesn't cost anything. It's a very simple document, and obviously it's cheaper to create. So those are some of the main differences when it comes to a will and or trust, or both. And obviously, if you have questions, please make note. You can maybe reference them a little bit later. The power of attorney, and for the power of, there's finances and there's one for healthcare. They are separate. They are different. The power of attorney for they allow someone to take over for decision making when it comes to those events, especially if you could become incapacitated. The advanced director of living will. So this is it's different than the healthcare aspect of it, because it's more of like if you need a life-saving care, maybe you're in a tragic accident and you're still living, but now they need to hook you up to some tubes, and maybe that's not what you want. Maybe you said, well, if I'm, heaven forbid, maybe if I'm brain dead and nothing's going to happen, I don't want to be connected to a machine for the rest of my life. Just basically, for lack of better terms, you've heard, just pull the cord. That's what an advanced directive of living will does for you. If that it makes those decisions in case you cannot make those on your behalf. So that's kind of the big difference there when it comes to those two. And since we are a nonprofit, I'd be remiss to not talk about making an impact through your estate. You really can make a huge impact by giving through your estate. It can be an oversized impact. I know that, with the Boise State Foundation, the donors that have put us in their estate plan, the gift through their estate plan is often 200 times bigger than any gift they'd given prior. So it can make a huge impact on the causes that you care about. And I will give a specific example. This is public information, so I'm okay with saying it. But Alan and Billy D. Noble Alan passed away a couple of years ago, and they made a $25 million gift to the university. Prior to that, he definitely gave, but it was nowhere near that amount. And that's a huge oversized impact, obviously. Now, I know not everybody can make $25 million gifts or $1 million gifts, but everything counts. It's just, I think the history shows that doing something through your estate can really really make some changes for the causes that you care about. And the nice thing is it doesn't affect your current lifestyle, right? It's um, it's something that it's a planned gift. It happens through your estate, and then it could have obviously have some tax benefits, and can be very helpful for all involved there. So um, if you are creating a estate plan, you might want to think about looking at the causes you care about. Obviously, take care of your loved ones and things, but a charitable gift through your estate can really have a drastic impact. Okay, I will talk about, okay, so you've done all these things, right? You've done your work. You got started. You take the right step. You've created your documentation. You've got your plans and things figured out. You communicate those plans, right? If you've named somebody to be your trustee or named somebody to be your power of attorney for healthcare or finances, you name them to be your personal representative of your estate, probably a good thing to let them know, and probably a good thing to let them know where you can find all your stuff. You think about the security. Obviously, we live in a digital age, and for me alone, I don't know how many passwords and logins and things that I have, let alone that my wife has. So they probably should be in one location somewhere, where somebody can to get to them. How about the keys to the house? I know that maybe sounds strange, but can they get to the house and get into your things if something were to happen? So you want to be organized. And you want to communicate with the people that you trust and the people that are named in there as much as possible, so they have a really good idea of what of where everything is. Some people like to write a personal letter of intent, that accompanies these documents. Just talks about your values and your wishes beyond the legal documents, and kind of directs things what you want to do in terms of wishes. And that's just an option that some people like to do. But and then as far as reviewing these things, there's really no set time. I think I've heard like 3 to 5 years, maybe you should review these documents. But in reality, it's after big life events. Maybe a death in a family, or a divorce, or maybe you inherit a bunch of money. Some of those big life events, that's when you want to start reviewing these documents, and making sure that they're what they need to be. And let's be honest, tax laws change. We just had a huge tax law change in this summer, so that might change some things according to what the assets you have and then the way it's distributed. So it's always a good idea to review these documents and make sure they're organized. And obviously, the main thing is to communicate with these things. So with that, I don't know if there's, thank you. And I want to say that we do have some resources. Our gift planning website, giftplanning.boisestate.edu, has a lot of this information. It has sample language if you want to include Boise State University in your estate plan. And like I said, I'm going to go there here in a minute to show you where the estate planning guide and there's a tax guide as well as a wills planner. And we'll kind of walk through some things. But is there any questions on here? And I think I know I have a chart here. So let's see here. I know. Let's see. Okay. So one question is, I'm single with no kids and I don't really have any money. Why do I need a will? Well, that's kind of like one of those common myths that are out there in terms of, sometimes people think of an estate gift as people with a lot of money and a lot of assets and that sort of thing. And yes, they have, not always, but they usually have a plan in place. And even though if you're single, no kids, if you're okay with some of the things that you do have going somewhere, and you're not worried about how that's going to look publicly, by all means, you're okay not having one. But it's kind of a personal decision. It just makes things a little bit easier when you have something in place and putting it on paper. And I will make a point that the state of Idaho still allows what is called a holographic will. And that means it's not notarized. It's not an official legal document. It can be written on a napkin. It really can, and signed and dated. And I've seen courts accept wills written on paper. We had one a few years back where a gentleman literally wrote it on a few notepads, and it was just a couple pages, and it was accepted as his last will and testament. So I would encourage everybody to have one, but it really is up to your personal preference there. Another one is here. What if I spend all my money before I pass? Kudos. That would be great. I think we'd all like to do that. The old joke is like, I like my last check to bounce, for those of us that still write checks. But that, unfortunately, we can't predict when we will be, when we will pass. So it'd be a nice thing to be able to know exactly how much money you're going to need, but most people that will have some kind of asset that they are going to be passing along. So here's a different question, and then we'll move on. But how do different types of assets transfer? Retirement accounts versus checking savings account. Good question, because retirement accounts are actually, they're one of those accounts that sit outside of the will. And in fact, they supersede any will or trust language. And for example, if you work at a business and they offer a 401k, and there's a beneficiary form that you have to fill out. If you're married, it's your spouse, most likely. But if you're not, you have to fill out that beneficiary form and put something on there. And that supersedes anything that says in the will. And I've heard of cases where husband and wife, they have their spouse as named beneficiary in their retirement account. They divorce. They forget to change that after the divorce. And even though they've created this will and these trusts that say, hey, I want it to go to my new wife, or I want it to go to my child, unfortunately, the beneficiary is still named on that retirement account, and that's who's going to get it. So those things supersede whatever is written in a will or living trust. So keep that in mind. That's just one of the accounts. Bank accounts are another thing. Let's see. Okay, so we still have a few. Yeah, we're good on time here. So I'm gonna change course here, because I'm gonna go to our website. So I'm gonna stop sharing, and so 1 sec, you might get a blank screen, but I'm still here. And all right, so I think everybody can see that. Maybe not. Hold on 1 sec. Still see the PowerPoint. Hold on 1 sec. Window. Let's try this one. There we go. So this is our gift planning website, giftplanning.boisestate.edu. I am proud to say that we did win an award. So some people across the country did like our website. I think it's just because Boise State's so popular and we love our colors, but it is a nice website. So, but there's lots of resources on here to find information, as well as just contacting us. We'd be happy to guide you and answer any questions. But I will go, like, for instance, the estate planning guide is right here. You click on that and verifying that I am indeed a human. And of course, there we go. So you will just fill out your name and last name and email. And if you want to write, hey, send me, you can write in here, like, send me a copy in the mail, or just if you want to download it. But this will, you put in your information and you get it automatically downloaded for you. So, but it's a nice little page that, a nice little booklet that can help guide you through some things. And in fact, I should probably do it myself just to show you. Oops, Boise State .edu. Can't spell. So I'd submit that, and then here it is. And there you go. So you get a download, and it welcomes you here. Ask you to, it really lays everything out for you in a nice, easy place. And like I said, sometimes the hardest part is getting it started. And this is a good starting place for people that want to just put things on paper. And if you scroll down, so here's where it comes into, like, you and your family. So you just write these things down, fill it out. And the idea is you have this on paper now. Now you can take it to your attorney, or you can use an online tool to put these things down. But it really lays out some of these things to kind of put things on paper. So it's a nice little tool that we have. And by all means, if you want us to send us a copy, we can do that for you. Also on our site, here's where the create our will is. It's either here or you can right at the top. And this is where you would sign in. And I believe I'm already signed in. Yeah, here we go. So, oh, now I'm going to have to re-sign in. So hold on, give me 1 second. Log me out. There we go. So it's 4 sections. And I've kind of pre-populated things already. So if you would just go to section 1, this is your family. So Buster Bronco, that's who's filling this out. Yes. Married. Yes, I have children. My birthday, 1974. Next. My address. My spouse, her name's Betty. She was also born in 1974. Here's my children. I have 2. They're both under 18, or excuse me, they're not. They're over 18. There's Buddy and there's Baby Bronco. So that's my family. Section 1 done. Section 2. Here's the contact information. Well, who's going to be your estate executor? Well, I want my son Buddy to do that. So I filled that section in. He's a relationship. He's my child. And then it's asked here, would you like to name an alternative executor in the event that the person cannot? So what if it's good to name at least 2? Okay, yes, I do. Well, I'm going to have my buddy Bart Hendricks here at Boise State be a state executor. I will, another disclaimer, like, we will do this for you, but it's very rare on this. So I don't recommend putting my name on there, but just for these purposes, I'm friends with Buster, so he wants me to be the alternate on there. So, and there's my information. I'm his friend. So, healthcare representative. Well, I want my daughter to do that. So she'll be the healthcare representative in case of that. And by the way, also Buster is married to Betty. So in case of Buster becoming incapacitated, Betty would be that healthcare person. But just in case Betty's not around, we're having baby do that. So so there's the contact information. Finances. You can summarize it. You can itemize it and get it very detailed. Or you say, well, I don't have any real estate at this time. I will note that if you do log in and create an account, this stuff is saved for you, so you can go back and change things. So I just put in here, real estate holdings. We own a home. It's worth 500 right now. My spouse has some real estate. Maybe she's got something down her side of the family, like it's a cabin or something somewhere. So her value, Buster does not have any personal real estate that he owns just by himself. So joint there. Your bank accounts. Well, we have a bank account. It's a joint ownership. Maybe there's 10,000 in there right now. So do that. Retirement accounts. Oh, I've been saving. So I'm going to put in, I'm up to 500K, and then my wife also has been saving. She's much better than I am at it. So she's at 600K. So you can put the summer retirement accounts there. Your investments, if you have any, they have a small little savings securities account, and maybe that's 25,000 in there that they share, they joint on there. So like I said, you can itemize these specifically, or you just summarize it. Obviously, itemize it, you can be more specific, especially when it comes to real property and personal property like this one. Like if you want to say, furniture, household, tools and equipment, antiques, jewelry, maybe you or your spouse, the ring, the marriage ring, they want to give that to specifically to someone. So automobiles, so you can kind of itemize there as well. But when it comes to that, but we're just going to summarize here, and it's like all our furnishings and things, it's, they're worth 50K with all our vehicles and things like that. So, liabilities. Oh, we still owe $100,000 on our home. So we'll do that. We're credit free. We're credit card free, debt free. So we don't have any of that, but we still owe a little bit of mortgage. So that's finances. And then you come to the distribution. Okay. With a simple will, a married couple, you can draft similar estate plans for both spouses, but I will say that a will is for the individual. So you will have, so if a married couple, each person, each spouse will have their own will. So they can go in here and do that themselves. If the spouse does not survive, I want, maybe, I want to give specific distribution. I want to give cash to an individual, and see, it's already kind of pre-populated to you. It's like, okay, I want to give Buddy 5K, and he's an individual, and I also want to give cash to my daughter for 5K. Okay, and then well, I want to add a little cash, and I want to give it to. I'm going to give 5K to charity. So there you can click there, and you can say, well, I'm going to pick the Boise State University Foundation. I've got a scholarship here. I want to support that. It's in Boise, Idaho, obviously. So that's cash. I already pre-filled this one out, like from your estate itself. A lot of people, what we see, because they don't know if it's instead of a specific amount of cash or money, they will do a percentage of their whole estate. And so that sometimes it makes it a lot easier, because you can't, you don't have to name specifically what it is. So the rest of their estate, I'm giving 50% to my son, Buddy. I'm giving the other 50% to my daughter, Baby. But maybe he also is charitably inclined, as we know. So I'm going to give each of them 45%, and I'm going to give the other 10% to charity, which is also happens to be Boise State University, or Boise State Foundation. So there you go. That's one way to make it a little bit easier when it comes to creating the distribution aspect of it. So now we're done. And like I said, this is very simple. And for these purposes, we want to keep it simple. So you would go to your section and review. And here's kind of the summary that you can download: contacts, your finances. And now you can it'll generate a will for you. Download will. And here it popped up. You just created a last will and testament. Now, this is very rudimentary, but I've seen less. We've seen, like I said, we've seen people just write it down on paper. And it asks for signatures, witnesses. You can get notary section down here. So, and even some instructions. So it's a pretty unique tool that we have on our website. It's free. You can use it just to practice. Maybe you want to put these down on ideas and you do have an attorney, you can still take it to them and they can look it over with you and make some changes or have some ideas. So like I said, it's a very rudimentary aspect of what we're doing. So with that, I am just going to pop back on the screen here, our PowerPoint. And by all means, if you have questions, send us an email, give us a call. We're happy to help and bounce around ideas. That's my job here at Boise State is to help bounce around ideas and provide some information. And if you have some charitable inclinations to support Boise State University, we can also offer ideas there as well. So with that said, I appreciate your time and your questions. And I'm hoping that we all learned something today and you have a little bit better idea of how the estate planning works and how some of the basics of it and some of the things that you want to those things that you can do and direct. But there actually is one more question. For a living trust, would you want to seek an attorney or accountant to have these established? A living trust, yes, highly recommend an attorney because they can be complex and it is a legal document. And in some cases, it'll have even its own tax identification number, depending on what kind of trust it is. So highly recommend that if you're creating a living trust that you seek an attorney for that as well. But that's all I have, friends, fellow Broncos that are out there. Like I said, if you have questions or comments, please let me know, or Cami, and we'll hope to see you on campus somewhere at one of our great events. And like I always end at most of my sessions, my presentations, go Broncos. Thanks.